What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some more battles in the Ultra League Summer Cup featuring 3 buff Pokemon this season with Heliolisk, Crustle, and Freeze Drive Genesect. Now originally I was going to do a triple Fury Cutter team with Galvantula, but again the TMs have been an issue for me and I wasn't able to get Discharge on the Galvantula, kept on flipping between Cross Poison and Bug Buzz, so eventually I swapped it out for Heliolisk, but interestingly I opted for Mud Slap as the fast move for better coverage up against both Fire types and Belly Bolt, which I found to be pretty common in the lead. Also, I did finally get my starting elo at the end of my final set with this team, and it's actually quite surprising to me. For context, I was on holiday during the first week of the season, and I did try to record some content to send out to other YouTubers, but my connection wasn't the greatest whilst I was away, and also I was testing out some crazy picks like Pheromosa, XL Salandit, Varoom, Carablast, and so on, so as you can imagine, it didn't go particularly well. So let me know in the comment section what you think my starting elo was, and also let me know your starting elo if you have already made it to rank 20 this season. And with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which previous theme cup that we've had in either the Great League or in the Little Cup would you like to see come back but in the Ultra League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, leading Heliolisk into Talonflame, so of course up against the Fire type where Mud Slap is not going to be beneficial for us as they are going to single resist it, being a part flying type Pokemon, but it's still a good matchup for me. Going to shield the first move here as I am going to go and boost up my defense, but the opponent swaps out after grabbing that shield advantage into Virizion. So at this point, I actually don't care about shielding my Genesect, of course. We know it's going to have an awful time up against the Talonflame, so we're going to go for the Techno Blast, grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point I'm just going to let Genesect go down. You can see we are very squishy. 2 Sacred Swords with a few double kicks does get the KO there. And also, it's worth mentioning, in these first few battles, I am on Magnet Bomb rather than X-Scissor, just purely down to having a lack of charge TMs once again. Eventually, I do swap it out for the X-Scissor, which is definitely a lot better just because there are quite a few water types where X-Scissor would be resisted. But either way, we're going to come in with the Crustle, grab their final shield. And at this point, I'm just going to match shields here. So I'm going to go for the shielding of the Sacred Sword. I'm now going to overfarm, not too much. I could have actually overfarmed ever so slightly more there, but either way, we go for the X's, get the KO up against Virizion. They can't come back in with the Talonflame, so they reveal their final Pokemon to be a Lapras, and at this point, Rockside still going to hit for super effective damage. It does about 50% of their HP. And at this point, I can just safely let the Crustle go down. We've got tons of energy on Heliolisk. I'm not even going to overfarm at all. Going straight for Parabolic Charge here, boosting up my defense, and we are going to be 3 Mud Slaps away from the next charge. We've actually just throwing on good timing, and Parabolic Charge is going to get the KO up against the Talonflame, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle, going to see a Heliolisk into Lapras, so this is a good matchup for me. The opponent's going to Safe Swap into Typhlosion, not expecting the Mud Slap damage from Heliolisk, and that is amazing for me. Going straight for Parabolic Charge, grabbing a shield, boosting up my defense, and the opponent going to have to go for Blast Burn here, as I can very comfortably tank a Thunder Punch. They do go for the bait there, but it doesn't matter, they're not going to reach a second Blast Burn, so I can no shield, that does not do much damage, and I get the full Mud Slap farm down. They come back in with the Lapras. I'm going straight for Parabolic Charge here. Again, Parabolic Charge is going to connect, and it's going to boost up my defense. The opponent cannot commit to a full farm down, forced to throw their energy. Sparkling Aria gets the KO there. I can come in with my Genesect, and the opponent comes in with Golisopod. Now, of course, this is where having X's would be a lot better for me, but I'm going to go for Techno Blast, and the opponent ends up shielding that. And by the way, you can tell which drive Genesect you have by the sort of color of the drive on the back, but it is very difficult to see that whilst you are battling, of course, as the opponent cannot see the back of my Genesect. So we end up grabbing a shield there. We can come in with the Crustle. I've actually put them into range where a Fury Cutter, and the X's will get the KO. I don't need to go for Rockside. And at this point, it looks like the opponent has just completely given up, completely left the app. And my advice, by the way, if you are losing and you know it's very clear that you're going to lose, just press the top left button. Like, it's so easy to do. Don't waste my time here by exiting the app, as it just takes a long time to finish this game. But either way, Rockside eventually connects. It gets the KO up against the Lapras, and I'm able to take that game. But anyways, GG's to opponent there into the next battle, and another Talonflame in the lead. So far, Heliolisk is a little bit mixed in terms of whether Mud Slap is actually good for us or bad for us, especially since I expected the opponent to just swap out of these matchups with the Talonflame, but nope, they don't do that. Instead, they grab a shield advantage, once again going for Fly, so potentially I don't need to shield in future situations because it looks like they're all going to be on Fly and Brave Bird. But either way, we debuff their attack here. Going to come in with the Genesect, and you can see now, because we've debuffed their attack, I can actually live 2 Rock Tombs. Not super comfortably, but they're on acid. Acid is going to be double resisted, so now I can farm up to 100 energy, fire off the magnet bomb here. Magnet bomb is going to not get the KO as I undercharge that just to guarantee we come out with a Technoblast loaded. They come back in with the Talonflame and we're debuffed, but it does decent damage there considering that is going to be neutral and non-stab. I've got a lot of energy on the Heliolisk, so I'm going to come in, go for one Mud Snap, fire off the Parabolic Charge here. Parabolic Charge is going to boost up my defense, and it does grab a shield from the Talonflame. Now, technically, I don't need to shield this, and I am going to no-shield. They go for another fly there, and I'm just barely able to reach a Breaking Swipe before they can fully incinerate, farm me down. Breaking Swipe, going to debuff their attack once again, but I assume it's going to be a Brave Bird, so I'm probably going to shield respect the damage. Anyways, it is the Brave Bird, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Belly Bolt. Now, of course, Belly Bolt typically just going to go and spam Parabolic Charges, but in the Zero Shield scenario, this is where Zap Cannon is going to be very scary for me. I'm going to go for two X-Scissors here. X-Scissor gets them into the red health range, but unfortunately, they do reach that Zap Cannon just before we reach a third charge move. And of course, Zap Cannon easily takes out the Crustle from that range. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on their into next battle. We see Belly Bolt in the lead, and this is where having Mud Snap is very nice, and they're also on Thunder Shock, so of course hitting for resisted fast move pressure. We're going to let that go through. They then swap into a Shadow Zapdos. I'm going straight for Parabolic Charge, expecting to grab a shield, and we do. Now we can come in with the Crustle, and the opponent will outpace me to a Charge Move. I'm definitely just going to shield here. The opponent full sends a Thunderbolt, so now with the Crustle, I can overfarm considerably. Fire off the Rock Side here. Rock Side will be enough damage to easily get the KO there. They're going to come back in with their Belly Bolt, and I'm going straight for an X-Scissor. Want to get this off before the opponent can boost up their defense here. The opponent will now be able to reach another Parabolic Charge, but that's okay. We tanked this very comfortably. I'm now going to overfarm with the Crustle here. I'm going to fire off the X-Scissor. I'm not going to overfarm too much once again, just because, I don't know, I felt like I was not keeping track of energy very well in my first two battles with this team. But either way, we're going to come in with the Heliolisk. I'm going to use my shield here, and the opponent has to shield this up, so I'm actually going to go for a Breaking Swipe bait here. This doesn't allow me to reach another charge move, but what it does do is it debuffs their attack, and that makes it a lot more comfortable for my Genesect, as of course, once again, I do not have X-Scissor as the charge moves. I've only got resisted charge moves to throw, so I might need to tank a charge move here on the Genesect. We come in with the Genesect here, and we are resisting the Fury Cutter damage, so I don't think one charge move would KO anyways, but we tank that very comfortably. Now, I can go for the Technoblast, and at this point, the opponent has actually just conceded the match there, as we get credited with the win, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle, Heliolisk into Virizion. So, of course, not ideal for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Crustle straight away, and the opponent going to stay in, fire off a charge move immediately. I'm just going to no-shield this, and they go for Sacred Sword. That is interesting here. Of course, if they're on Stone Edge, they would... well, probably should farm up to the Stone Edge and grab a shield from me, but now they swap into Greninja, and that is absolutely fine. I can actually farm up to back-to-back X's, grab both shields from the opponent, and now I'm just going to let the Crustle go down. Of course, even a Night Slash from this range will get the KO, and they actually get the boost there, and because Heliolisk is not on Volt Switch as the fast move, I'm just going to come in with my Genesect, double shield if I have to. I probably will need to, but then I can get a huge Fury Cutter farm down. So I'm going to take both shields here, go for that Fury Cutter farm down. If they come back in with Virizion, of course, I've got Technoblast for coverage, but the opponent swaps into their own Genesect. So I'm going straight for Technoblast. Technoblast, even resisted, does decent damage. I'm now going to swap into Heliolisk, as I can't really make out what color drive they've got there. So Technoblast does big damage, and I am just barely able to reach a Breaking Swipe before they fully Fury Cutter farm me down. Breaking Swipe gets the KO from that range, and at this point it is going to be game over unless the opponent makes a really nice catch onto their Greninja here. I should be looking fine. So the opponent fires off the charge move here. I can, of course, tank a Sacred Sword. Not super well, but we do tank it. I can now reach the Technoblast. The opponent does not make any catches. Technoblast gets the one shot there. We can Fury Cutter, farm down Greninja, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see a Shadow Ferrothorn in the lead. So, once again, not ideal for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Crustle, and the opponent is going to swap into Jellicent. Of course, not really great for me. We are getting kind of hard countered so far. Of course, they're going to resist the bug type damage. So, Fury Cutter, whilst a great fast move, is going to be the most resisted typing in the game, so we're going to go for back-to-back Rock Slides. Rock Slides get them fairly low, and Crustal has some okay-ish bulk to it, so I should tank a Surf. However, what it will do is it will put me into Hex farm down range, so we're able to reach a charge move here. I'm going to grab a shield advantage, although it doesn't really help me too much, as the opponent can now go for a huge farm down, and because Heliolisk is not going to be on Volt Switch, I still won't get a full Mudslap farm down before they reach back-to-back Surfs here, so I'm just going to fully let both these charge moves go through, hoping Genesect with a shield advantage can sweep in the end game, but that's definitely not going to be the case up against a Skeledirge, so I'm instantly just going to concede the match. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, see a Typhlosion in the lead, a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into Venusaur, which is not very safe up against my Genesect. Of course, I'm going to no-shield this. I double resist everything they can possibly throw. Sludge Bomb, not going to do much damage. The opponent will probably realize they have to go for Frenzy Plant here, but even then, Frenzy Plant, a great move, does very little damage up against the Genesect. I'm going to farm up to 100 energy, fire off the Magnet Bomb. Magnet Bomb puts them into Fury Cutter farm down range, and we're going to come out very close to a charge move loaded. I'm going to go for the Techno Blast, actually. Techno Blast is going to connect. It does decent damage there once again, considering it is resisted. And now I'm going to come in with the Heliolisk, go for one Mudslap, fire off a Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe grabs the shield from the opponent, and at this point I'm definitely just going to shield my Heliolisk and then go for a full Mudslap farm down. But the opponent reveals their final Pokemon to be a Roserade. Now the opponent fires off a Weather Ball straight away. I can tank that as it is non-stab. I'm firing off the Breaking Swipe here, and Breaking Swipe grabs the final shield from the opponent. So now we can just come in with the Crustal. I'm not going to throw straight away. I'm waiting for the opponent to throw here. I'm going to farm up too close to back-to-back charge moves. They do bait with a Weather Ball, but it doesn't really matter. They're not going to reach a Leaf Storm. So we fire off the X-Scissor. X-Scissor gets the KO, and now I can comfortably outpace the Typhlosion. Could have settled for the X-Scissor, but instead I go for Rock Slide. Rock Slide gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into next battle, see a Chestnut in the lead. So, of course, once again, not ideal up against a Grass type. Going to be safe swapping into Crustal, and we're met with a Skeledirge, so not too bad for me. I can go straight for the Rock Slide here. Rock Slide going to hit for super effective damage, and it does grab a shield from the opponent. And here, I did think about firing off a Rock Slide on the CMP type, but I wasn't sure if the opponent would throw there. If they didn't throw there, then of course I give away a full Incinerate in for free. But if I threw there, I could have grabbed both shields from the opponent and let the Crustal go down. But now I'm kind of forced to double shield here. I need to flip switch advantage up against the Skeledirge. Now we will finally throw the Rock Slide here, but we're going to find out that Rock Slide actually is not enough damage to get the KO, so I swap into my Heliolisk. I get the Mudslap snipe there, and now they come back in with a Chestnut. I'm going straight for Breaking Swipe here. Of course, I have just given up switch advantage anyways, but we got rid of the Skeledirge. We kept it away from our Genesect, so maybe Genesect can sweep in the end game. They fire off the Frenzy Plant, but because I've debuffed their attack with a Breaking Swipe, I'm able to tank that, reach another Breaking Swipe, but the opponent reveals their final Pokemon to be a Swampert. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Genesect. I do still have a catch opportunity with my Crustal, so I'm going to wait for the opponent to throw their first charge move. I can tank any one move reasonably comfortably here. I'm now going to try and catch the next move onto my Crustal, but it does not work out for me. But the opponent has to commit to a farm down here. I'm able to reach an X-Scissor. X-Scissor gets them very low. They do get that farm down, but the opponent, brilliant play, catching the move onto their Chestnut. I need to undercharge this, and unfortunately I undercharge it just a little bit too much there. If I got the perfect undercharge, we come out with the X's loaded and I win that game, but unfortunately, as a result of not perfectly undercharging it, they're able to reach a BM Frenzy Plant and get the KO there, and I do lose. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, another Typhlosion in the lead, and again, don't want to throw on alignment here, so I'm going to go for the overfarm, shielding the first move. They do bait with a Thunder Punch, doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to swap into Credilli, and I'm coming in straight away with my Genesect. The opponent fires off the Rock Tomb there. Rock Tomb, because I've not debuffed them with a Breaking Swipe, is actually going to be able to two-shot me. So I'm going to fire off a Techno Blast on the CMP tie. Techno Blast gets the KO even with a debuff to my attack, and I'm still able to reach an X-Scissor before they Incinerate farm me down. Now, Genesect actually just barely tanks the Incinerate there, which is probably worse for me, but I'm coming in with the Heliolisk. I think I win CMP, but instead, I'm just going to shield this and then commit to a full Mudslap farm down. They full send the Blast Burn there. We get the full farm down, and their final Pokemon going to be a Belly Bolt, so I'm going for Parabolic Charge first. just to boost up my defense there, make it more comfortable for me to reach more breaking swipes. Breaking swipe number 1 grabs the shield from the opponent, and I'm able to reach another breaking swipe before they even get to a parabolic charge. Breaking swipe is going to connect, of course, and the opponent doesn't even farm up to the Zap Cannon. They go straight for parabolic charge, but it's not going to do much damage here. I can go straight for an Exeter with my Crustal, and of course, from this range, even with a boost to their defense, it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. We see Heliolisk into Swampert. So, Swampert is a bit of a core breaker to the team, so I'm actually going to stay in here. And, of course, having Mudslap is kind of okay. And, of course, the opponent doesn't know, but I could be on Grass Knot. So, I'm actually going to stay in with the Heliolisk, fire off a breaking swipe here. This might actually grab a shield from the opponent. They've already seen an unexpected fast move, but no, they end up no shielding, which is unfortunate for me. But they end up over farming. So, breaking swipe number 2 grabs a shield from the Swampert, and we do actually debuff them the second time round, which means, unfortunately, they do not get the KO there, which means they actually get more farm. We're going to come in with the Genesect, and the opponent actually committing to an Earthquake does not end up getting there, but they come in with a Typhlosion. So I'm going straight for Technoblast. Technoblast going to be no-shielded. It does respectable damage there, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Roserade. So at this point, I'm going straight for X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to hit for neutral damage, and it does do substantial damage there. At this point, of course, expecting a Leaf Storm. I'm going to shield this, and the opponent does full send it. I'm committing to the farm down, but the opponent does reach a last-second charge move. It's just going to be a debuff Weather Ball, though, so I do tank that very comfortably. And I can farm up to back-to-back charge moves, but Crustal should be losing CMP here. So what I need to do is swap into my Genesect, catch the charge move as they do reach that Blast Burn. Blast Burn, they fully undercharge it, and I actually survive with 1 HP and a Dream, but it doesn't really matter, as of course, we did bank the Rock Slide. Rock Slide will be taking out the Typhlosion, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle, Heliolisk into Shadow Typhlosion once again. So, Typhlosion seems to be the most common lead, at least for me. They're going to swap into Lapras, and I think this might be the worst battle I've ever played in the Go Battle League. We go for Parabolic Charge here. So far, nothing too out of the ordinary, but it's just going to go from bad to worse, and you're going to see this. We're going to shield the Sparkling Aria. I could have tanked that, but that's okay. I then over-farm here. Big mistake. At this point, I'm thinking, you know what? I can still fully farm them down. And then I realize, actually, they can say sideway farm me down, and then I swap into Crustal, and I still don't get that farm down, now using my final shield here. And if you thought that was bad, I then end up over-farming, throwing on CMP. Like, what the heck am I even doing here? Blast Burn gets the one shot, and honestly, that has to be the worst game I've ever played. That might be the worst battle I've ever showcased on my channel, and I have showcased some very bad battles in the past, but either way, GG's to that opponent there. I bet they're very happy to get a free win up against a content creator. But anyways, into the next battle, we're going to see a Trevenant in the lead. They're going to swap into their own Mudslap Heliolisk, but we're going to go straight for a Breaking Swipe as I am ahead on energy, as it does take one turn to swap out of that lead matchup. I get the debuff with the Breaking Swipe there, and at this point, I'm going to no-shield this. Breaking Swipe does not get the KO, as of course I did debuff them. I can fire off another Breaking Swipe. So Breaking Swipe does take them out there, grab a shield advantage. I'm now going to swap into my Genesect, hoping they don't have a Fire type in the back. Usually I would swap into my Crustal, but we shield up the Shadow Ball there. I'm now going to overfarm, fire off an X-Scissor. X-Scissor will not be enough damage to get the KO, but it puts them into perfect Fury Cutter farm down range. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow and Frost. So I'm going straight for the Technoblast. Technoblast, if it does connect, going to do big damage in this matchup. The opponent committing to a full farm down, but they're not going to get there before I reach another Technoblast. And Technoblast gets the one shot up against Shadow and Frost, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle, another Typhlosion in the lead. So, of course, running Mudslap turns out to be a pretty good thing for the Heliolisk, but we end up lagging there, so I don't get the full Mudslap in for free like I should do, as the opponent is not punished for throwing on alignment, so definitely not ideal. And whilst normally I'd go for Parabolic Charge first, and then go for Breaking Swipe, I'm forced to go for back-to-back Breaking Swipes here. In reality, it doesn't make too much of a difference here, as we still get the KO anyways, but of course, it's not really ideal. Now the opponent comes in with a Shadow Victory, but I swap into my Crustal straight away, and their final Pokemon is going to be Feraligatr, but they're actually on Leaf Tornado there. So they are going to double debuff my attack. You can see these X-Scissors do not do much damage anymore, but the opponent is now going to overfarm, realizing they can tank the X-Scissors fairly comfortably, but we've got them into the red health range with just the double debuff damage. So at this point, gonna let it go down here, come in with a Heliolisk, and all I need to do is save my shield for the Genesect. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon. They're going to swap straight away into Shadow Victory Belt, and that's going to be game over. I can go straight for an X-Scissor. X-Scissor will be enough damage to get the KO. The opponent going to shield that, but I can double resist anything they possibly throw here. So Leaf Tornado does not get the debuff to my attack, and the opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's to opponent there into next battle. We see a Belly Bolt in the lead once again. So the opponent is going to swap out straight away into a Golisopod now. Of course, not being on Volt Switch as the fast move, this is not as good of a matchup for me, but I can go for a Parabolic Charge here. This should be grabbing a shield from the opponent, and then I will eventually swap out of this matchup and swapping into my Genesect. Now, the opponent throws just before I reach an X-Scissor, so very good timing by the opponent. They fire off the Aqua Jet. I'm now going to throw an X-Scissor on the CMP tie, hoping this is enough damage to get the KO, but Genesect just barely does not get that KO. So at this point, I'm also going to no-shield this. The opponent fires off the Aqua Jet before swapping back into their Belly Bolt. At this point, I think I'm only going to reach one move, so I go for the harder hitting Techno Blast, and Techno Blast does big damage. I then swap into Heliolisk, not allowing the farm down and force the opponent to throw their energy straight away. Of course, Heliolisk, even though we resist that, we do actually go down there. Now we're going to come in with the Crustal. I can commit to a farm down, or I could throw an X-Scissor straight away, making sure they don't get off any damage up against the Crustal. I go for the X-Scissor straight away, and it's going to turn out to be not the best play there, as they've got for Alligator in the back, and unfortunately we're going to place exactly the same to the X-Scissor as they do to the Hydro Cannon, but one Hydro Cannon will be enough damage to get the KO, whereas X-Scissor is just not going to cut it in this matchup. So of course, in hindsight, tanking the move there and farming them down would have been the play for me to win that game. We tried to make a catch there. The opponent does exactly the same thing, then coming up, banking the Hydro Cannon gets the KO there, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there into next battle, another fire type in the lead with Skeledirge. So once again, staying in with the Heliolisk. This time we're not lagging by one turn, so I can just safely shield this up. We get the Mud Slap in for free. They full send a Blast Burn there, which is absolutely fine with me. I'm going to go for a Parabolic Charge here, boosting up my defense, and that actually does not get the KO, which is even better for me because we don't take the Incinerate damage anyways, as we get that Mud Slap farm down, and the opponent's going to come in with a Virizion. So I'm going straight for X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to grab a shield from the opponent. And at this point, I'm not going to bother shielding. If they full send a Stone Edge, then so be it. But the opponent goes for a Leaf Blade there, so probably not going to be on Stone Edge. I'm going to no-shield once again. Leaf Blade number 2 coming through, but it does not get the KO, and I'm able to reach another X-Scissor before they can fully farm me down. X-Scissor gets them into the red health range. They do get the farm down there, but that's absolutely okay. I'm now going to come in with my Genesect, and I will probably no-shield the first charge move here. The opponent is going to go for a Leaf Blade bait there. Maybe they are on Stone Edge, and they commit to the Stone Edge. They don't get there. The final Pokemon going to be a Belly Bolt once again. I'm going to go for the X-Scissor. I should be able to reach 2 X-Scissors before they can fire off the first Parabolic Charge. And then at this point, I'm remembering, actually, Heliolisk is loaded on energy, so I'm going to swap into Heliolisk. They do get off the charge move first, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I am so loaded on energy. I can go for one Mud Slap, fire off a Breaking Swipe. I am just one Mud Slap away from a second Breaking Swipe. First one doesn't do much damage there, but the second one will be more than enough damage to get the KO from this range. I'm able to take out the Belly Bolt, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent, what the heck? GG's to that opponent there, and into the final battle of this video, I do believe. We're going to see a Tapu Bulu in the lead. So, of course, not really ideal for the Heliolisk. We're going to swap into our Crustal. Crustal, able to connect with an X-Scissor, and I'm going to no-shield this first charge move here. Actually, no, never mind. I'm going to shield because they farmed up to a potential Solar Beam, but it is just going to be a Nature's Madness there. However, if I did let that go through, I think Greninja comes in and fully Water Shuriken farms me down, so I don't really regret shielding there, and the opponent is going to overfarm by a single Water Shuriken. They fire off the Hydro Cannon, getting the KO there. I think Night Slash just wouldn't cut it from that range. We come in with the Heliolisk, and we actually lose CMP here, but it doesn't really matter, as of course this means they're only going to get off one charge move. Breaking Swipe should be enough damage to get the KO from this range, so Breaking Swipe will be connecting. It gets the KO there. We swap straight away into Genesect, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Drampa. The opponent swaps into Tapu Bulu. They do reach a last second charge move here. Everything they throw is resisted, but Nature's Madness going to drop my defense here, meaning these Dragon Breaths are going to start to chunk, but we go for the X-Scissor bait. X-Scissor grabs the final shield, and now we can full send a Techno Blast, and of course, super effective up against the Drampa. It gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's up on there into, I guess, the final battle of this video. That one wasn't the final battle. We're going to swap into Crustal once again, seeing a grass type in the lead. So I basically had either really good leads or really bad leads. Not very many neutral leads with the Heliolisk. Either we saw a fire type or we saw a grass type. But either way, the opponent's going to come in with a Feraligatr. We go for the X-Scissor. X-Scissor going to be no shielded. And I'm able to reach another X-Scissor before they throw a move. So X-Scissor, number 2, grabs the first shield from the opponent. And at this point, we're just going to let the Crustal go down. Of course, Hydro Cannon gets the KO from that range. I'm going to come in with my Heliolisk, and I'm hoping I can Mudslap farm them down before they do reach back-to-back charge moves. Once again, saving both my shields for the Genesect, which could be good for me unless they've got a fire type in the back. I'm going to swap out straight away if it is Virizion that comes back in, and it is. So we're going to come in with the Genesect, and I'm going to shield the first charge move here. Sacred Sword, whilst it's still going to do loads of damage, we don't know what is in the back, so I'm going to shield that up there. I'm now going to overfarm, fire off a Techno Blast, just guarantee the KO or the final shield, and Techno Blast gets the one shot. Their final Pokemon going to be a Greninja, and this game is well and truly wrapped up. I believe I might be one Mudslap away from a charge move on my Heliolisk, but I actually don't know if I need it here. The opponent needs to Hydro Cannon me. Nice Slash, not going to cut it. We reach another X-Scissor with the Genesect, and of course, from this range, it easily takes out Greninja, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to open there, and we're going to see what elo I start off with. We are going to start off with 2297, which is actually fairly high. I don't think I've ever started that high, or at least not in quite a while, so I'm pretty happy with that, considering my first, like, I don't know, 9 sets in the Go Battle League were absolutely dreadful, and I just stopped playing at that point. But anyways, so that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shout outs at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.